Hello everyone and welcome to our Code Along for Cyber Week Scotland 2025. We are going to be creating a random password generator based on 3 random words. For this project, you are going to need a starter file from the Scratch website, which you can find at this website here. So tinyurl.com/3 random words, and it should look like this. So we want to find that first. That's what we're going to start with, and then we will kick off and have a look at the code that goes behind creating our password generator. Before we do that, though, I would like to think about a couple of important things within Scratch that you may not have come across before, and to get our brains in the right frame of mind, what I'd like to think about is initially have a look at these pictures, okay? So have a look at this. We have an egg cup. What's the difference between an egg cup and an egg box? So just have a think about that. What's the difference between the purpose of an egg cup and an egg box? And in the same way, I'd like to think about the difference between a parking space and a parking garage. Are there any commonalities between these things? You know, what's the same about an egg cup and a parking space, and what's the same about an egg box and a parking garage? Well, hopefully you've come to the conclusion that an egg cup only can hold a single egg, whereas an egg box can hold lots of eggs. And a parking space can hold a single car, and a parking garage can hold lots of cars. Now, what's this got to do with Scratch, I hear you ask? Well, in Scratch, we can store data within programs, and we can store them using variables. So a variable is created using the variables set of commands. And if you create a variable, I've got a variable here called word1, and that variable can just store one thing. So in this case, it's just storing a single word called warm. But I've also got the option in Scratch to create a list. So I can create a list. So just below the variables, you've got the option to make a list. And I've got a number of lists here, and one of those is called verbs. And when we look at our verbs list, you can see that there are lots of words stored in our list. So the important thing here is to understand and try and remember in the back of your head that a variable is used to store only one item of data, a single thing, like a single word, and a list is used to store multiple items of data. So, for example, lots of words. In the project we're going to do today, we're going to be using lists and variables to create our random password generator. So, in order to do this, I've prepared a starter project, which I shared at the start here, this one here. And if you go to that project, you will be able to see inside it, and you will see that there are some variables and some lists that have been created. So before we get into the coding, let's have a look at those variables and lists. So let me just switch to my other screen. So we have our password starter file, and it looks like this. We have a cat, and we've got a star, and we've got a bin, and we've got a green flag. And when we press the green flag, nothing's going to happen because I've not added any code to it yet. You will add code to this, but I have put in some lists and some variables to speed the process along. So when you're in the password starter, click on See Inside. And when we go and see inside, you will see that there are 5 different sprites. There's a cat, there's the Save Pass button, which is a star. There is a trash can, a bin for deleting things, and there's a yes and a no button. Now, it's unlikely we'll get to use the yes and no button in this session, but what we're going to focus on is the cat, the star, and the bin. So let's click on the cat, and you'll see in the scripts area, we have some code in there already. Now this is just to start the project off completely empty. You don't have to touch this, and please don't touch it. Just leave it alone. Pretend it's not there. It's just setting the program to be empty at the start. What I do want to have a look at though, is when you click on the variables section, which is the orange dot, you will see there's a number of variables. There's one called new password, then there's a number of lists. So I've got a list called adjectives, my passwords, nouns, symbols, and verbs. Now, if I click on one, let's click on nouns. I'm going to check the box that says nouns. And you'll see that a list of nouns has appeared. So if I scroll up and down, you'll see there's, 101 different nouns in this list. So this is a list of nouns. Now, to make sure that we understand how this works, if you scroll down to below the Make a List section, you should find an oval command that says item 1 of, and it says adjectives because that's the first list. If you pull that across, it says item 1 of adjectives here. I'm going to change that adjectives one to be our nouns list. And just by double clicking on this oval command, you will see that it's going to give us an answer. And just now it says aeroplane, because that's the first item in our nouns list. And if you change the number in here to number 6, what's the sixth one? The sixth one is bear. So if I double click on this, or double tap, it should say bear at the bottom. So in order to pick a random word from our list, we need to use this command, item number of, and then the name of the list. This is the nouns list. What I want to do is I want to pick a random number between, in this case, 1 and 101. So I need to use one of the operators, and there's an operator that's green. It says pick random. I'm just going to pull that pick random in here. Just pop it down onto the stage. And just to make sure it works, you can double click on it. So this one says pick random 1 to 10. If I double click on that, you'll see that it generates a random number between 1 and 10 anytime. So if I take this command and pop that into where it says item number of noun, and then double click this, what you'll begin to see is it begins to pick a random word from that list between 1 and 10, like so. So if you've done that, then we know that we're able to access the first 10 words in our list, and it's able to pick one of those words at random. There's 101 words in our list though. So we could type in the number 101 here, and it'll work. It'll absolutely work, no problem at all. But the problem is that what happens if I delete a word from my list, or I add some more words? All of a sudden, my 101 isn't the correct number anymore. It'd be much better if I could automatically detect how long the list was. And we can do that within Scratch. So again, going back to our variable and scrolling down, we're looking for another oval-shaped object that says length. So length of, it says adjectives. I'm going to just pull this in. I want to change that adjectives to nouns. So if you double click on this, you'll see that it gives us an answer of 101. So it's working out there's 101 things on that list. So what we can do now is pull that into this area here. So I can pull length of nouns into our maximum number for our pick random. So our line of code now looks like this. Item pick random 1 to length of nouns, which is pretty complicated. So there are 3 bits of code we've got to join together to just pick a random word from our list of nouns. So I'll take these apart and put them together again just so you can see how to do that. So we've got item number of, you choose nouns from the list. You've got a pick random 1 to a number, and you've got a length of, and you've got a set of lists here, and let's choose nouns. So you put that into your maximum value. So pick a random number between 1 and the maximum number in the list. Then put this whole green operator into the item number of this. And that's going to pick a random word from that list at any time. Again, you can check it by double clicking, like so. Right, I'm happy that's working. I'm going to, at this point, just scroll to where my list section is. You can see just now that my nouns are still showing on the stage. I don't need to see them, I just need to know that that's working. So I'm going to just hide those again by unchecking the nouns box. So it just disappears. So it's still going to work. If I double click on it, it's still going to work, just that I've hidden it from view. And at this point, what I'm going to do is now create a single variable to store whatever random word has been picked. So to do that, click on variables. I'm going up to where it says make a variable, so a single thing. You know, this is our single egg box, our single egg cup, or our single parking space. It's our single space to store one bit of information. Make a variable. I'm going to call this word1. And I now have a variable called word1, which I can access. And if I pull the command that says set, it says new password here, set new password to 0, and when I just choose from the drop down and say set word1, I'm going to pull this big command we've just written into that part of the command here. So set word1 to whatever word I've picked at random. So it should look like this. Let me just make it a bit smaller so we can see that. A bit bigger, there we go. So my single line of code says set word1 to item blah, 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 blah. And again, on the stage, you'll see you've now got this word1 variable that appears. When you double click on this command, you'll see that whatever word's been picked is now appearing in the word1 variable. So it's a random noun from that list is appearing in here. Now, in order for our program to work, we don't always need to just double click this line of command. We want it to work when we click on the cat. So to do that, we go to events and we say when this sprite is clicked. So now in here, I've got when this sprite is clicked, we're going to set word1 to a random word from our nouns list. Now let's just check that works. So if it works, what should happen? Press the cat and then the word will update. So let's go to full screen. Let's click on the cat. And there we go. So clicking on the cat and you can see that the different words are being put into word1. Brilliant. Now, we need to do this 2 more times because we've got a list of verbs and we have a list of adjectives. So we need to pick a random adjective and a random verb and store them in some new variables. So we're going to repeat the process. We're going to go to variables and and press make a variable. And this is going to be called word2 and press OK. Now, I don't have to write everything again. I've made the variable called word2. I can see it, it's here. Word2 is there, it exists. What I can do though, just make this a touch smaller so it all fits on the screen. What I can do is I can right click on this big long command that we have that's picking a random noun. I can right click and duplicate and I get the same command. I can join that to the bottom, then I can just replace the options that are in the different menus. So in this case, I can set word2 to being item, pick random, 1 to length of, let's choose adjectives this time. And then change our list at the end to being adjectives as well. So I've now got word2 as being a random number between 1 to the length of adjectives from the adjectives list. And again, we can check that. We can go into full screen so we can see it. Press the cat, and I've now got 2 words being generated. And you can imagine what comes next. It's the same thing for the third word, which is going to be our verbs. So again, make a variable. We'll call this word3. Press OK. And then I'm going to just right click on this command and duplicate it and change all my word2 stuff to being word3. So set word3 to being a random number from the length of my verbs list from my verbs list. Go to full screen, press the cat, and now I can see I've got 3 words being generated at random. Zookeeper, valuable, no. Hand, ordinary, add. Bear, talented, box. So at this point, we know our program is picking 3 random words. It's just that those 3 random words are stored in 3 different variables. What we need to do now is join those 3 words together and create a password based on that. Now, to do this, again, you might want to pause if you want to catch up. That's on the screen here, the code that we need. I'll just zoom out a wee touch so you can see the full thing. So teachers, if you're showing this to your class, this is the stage you need to be at. So you're on the cat sprite. You've got 3 variables, word1, word2, word3, and you're using the same line of code and changing it for nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Your code on the cat should look like this. I'm going to stop talking now so you can pause it, then we'll come back and do the next bit. So pause. And we're back. I hope we're all at that stage. So at this point, what we're going to do is join word1, word2, and word3 together. And to do that, we're going to go to our operators section. So the operators is green. And you're looking for the command that says, it says join apples, bananas. It looks like this. Take that, zoom in a bit so you can see it a bit better. Join apple, banana, and you need another one. You need another join apple, banana, like this. What this command does is that it's called concatenation. It allows you to join variables together, or the contents of variables together. So we've got 3 variables, so we need to join the 3 of those together. To do this, you need to take your second join statement and pop it into where it says banana on the first one. So you get 3 options to join apple, join, like this. So your join statement goes inside here. And then we pop in the variables that we have. So we've got word1, word2, and word3. So we go to our variables, and you've got your word1 variable, which you can pull down and pop it into here. You've got your word2 variable, which you can pop down and stick it into here. And you've got your word3 variable, which you can pop down and stick it into there. And again, at any point, if I just make this slightly bigger so you can see it, you've got 3 words that have been generated already. So if I double click on just this command, you should see that it just joined them all together, like so. What we want to do is to put that new word into the variable called new password. So when you look at the variables commands as well, you've got the set new password to 0. Let's pull that in. And instead of setting new password to 0, we're going to set new password to this big joining statement and pop that in there. And then we connect that to the bottom of this script, like so. So our script now begins to look like this. So picking 3 random words, assigning them to 3 variables, then joining those 3 words together and assigning that to a new variable called new password. Now the new password variable is this orange box you see on the stage here. Now let's just make sure that's working. So it's always good to test your program. So I'll go full screen so you can see it better. So I've got my cat. When I click on my cat, I expect it to make 3 new random words and then to combine all those words together and put it in this orange box. So when I click on it, I've got cake, polite, think, and all of a sudden my new password says cake, polite, think. I can click on it again and you can see our new password is being generated. So again, I'll go back to the code. So we're on the cat. This is what the code for your cat should look like. And again, teachers, if you want to pause, that's absolutely fine. I'll stop talking for a second, and this is the state you need to be in. So pause, and we're back. So our password generator program is making new passwords. What I'd like to do at this point is to, when a password comes up that I want to be able to save that. And when I've got some saved passwords, I might want to delete some of those passwords. So we're going to be looking at the saving password sprite and the delete password sprite, which is the star and the bin. So let's go to the star. So let's move to the star sprite, which is called save pass. Now, I can now begin to hide these three words that are on the screen. So I can uncheck in my variables, uncheck word 1, uncheck word 2, uncheck word 3. They still exist, they're just not being shown to the user. The user doesn't need to see them, they just need to see the password at the bottom. So I've unchecked those. But what the user does need to see is the list of passwords that they are saving. Now, I have created an empty list called my passwords. So if you look down to where it says make a list, so in variables, underneath make a list, you'll see there's my passwords, and you can check the box for my passwords. And you'll see that a new list has appeared on the screen. It says my passwords, it's empty, and there's nothing in it. What we want to do is when we press the star button, whatever password is here, we want to save that into our list. So it's a fairly straightforward piece of code. But again, there's a few things we need to make sure we understand. We're taking our single piece of data called new password, which is the one we've just made, which is in the variable, and we're adding that to the list called my passwords. So the code for that is as follows. Make sure we're on the star, and we're looking for when this sprite is clicked. So when this sprite is clicked, zoom in so you can see it. So what do we want to do? We're going to add our new password to our my passwords list. So let's go back to our variables, and we're looking for the command that says add thing to, which is down here underneath the make a list. Add thing to. So add thing to, not adjectives, we're adding thing to my passwords. So what are we adding to my passwords? Well, we're adding whatever's stored in this variable here. And remember, this variable is called new password. So if we scroll up, you'll see new password. You pull that down and you pop that into where it says thing. And you join that together. So when the sprite is clicked, add new password to my passwords. Let's have a look and check that works. So full screen. Let's generate some random passwords. Click, that's working, that's working. I like this one, Sugar Mighty Giggle. That's a good password. I'm going to click on the star button and it should take that Sugar Mighty Giggle and pop it into my password list. So click and it works. Let's generate another password or two. Vegetable Polite Open. I like that one too. Click, and it's adding it to our list. So this will work as often as you like. So I can add in different passwords as I see fit. So what we're doing is we're taking a single variable and we're adding it to our list of passwords that we like. However, in retrospect, mouse perfect knit, not a big fan of. I would like to delete that. So I'd like to be able to press the bin, the trash button, and it will delete a password that I don't want. So in order to do this, we need to write some code for the delete sprite. So we're going to go to our bin, which is this one here. Again, it's completely empty. And in here, it's a little bit different. If you remember, our list information, they're all numbered. So my password's 1, my password's 2, my password's 3, my password's 4. I need to know the number of the password I want to delete before I can delete it. So I need to ask the user to say, well, hey, what number of password do you want to delete? And then I'm going to go and delete it. So to do that, we say when the sprite is clicked. So again, we're on the bin. When the sprite is clicked, zoom in a bit. When the sprite is clicked, we're going to go to sensing and we're going to choose the one that says ask. It says, ask, what is your name? Let's change what it's asking. We'll say number to delete. So when a user types in an answer, it's going to be stored in this system variable called answer. So if I type in 3 or 6, it's going to be stored in that essentially it's a variable called answer, and it's going to be stored there. So what I want to do is once I've typed in a number, I want to then delete whatever I've typed in of that. So if I go to my variables and scroll down to where it says add thing to adjective, we're looking for delete one of adjective, looking for this one here. And we're not deleting anything from our adjectives, we're deleting it from my passwords, and we're deleting whatever answer I've typed in from my passwords. I'm going to join that together like so. So our code for the delete button asks us what number do you want to delete. I type in a number, then takes that number and then deletes that from my password list. So again, let's check that that works. Big screen. Right, so I've got 5 let's add a new password just to make sure it's also working. There we go. So I've got 6 passwords here, and I don't like the giraffe open doors one. That's number 3. So I'm going to press the delete button, and it says, what number do you want to delete? Number to delete. And I don't know how well this comes across on the video, but at the very bottom of the screen, there's like a purple oval shape that you can type in some things. I want to delete number 3, so I'm going to type in 3. And then I'm going to press the confirm button, the tick button, or I can just press return on the keyboard. And it's going to delete number 3. So when I press the purple button, hopefully we'll see giraffe open doors disappears from our list. Hey, brilliant. Let's try again. Let's delete the first one. So click, I want to delete number 1. Brilliant. And I can add a new password. And that's all still working. Great. All right. So our delete sprite has got this code in here. You'll find the ask and answer in the sensing blocks. You can customize the message. You can be much more polite, but as in please enter the number of the password you would like to delete, and so on and so forth. Make sure that when you're deleting, you're deleting it from my passwords, not from the other lists. And there we go. And that, my friends, is our basic password generator program working. Well done if you got this far. That's brilliant. I'm going to leave you with some thoughts, and I'm going to make another little video that will explore some of these things a bit further. But here's some things I'd like to think about trying. If you go back to the cat sprite, you will see that our password is made up of 3 random words from 3 different lists. Well, if you look closely at the lists, I'm going to hide my passwords out the way so we can see this. If you look at, there's a list called symbols that I've created as well. And let's zoom in so we can see that. Look, I've got this list of symbols here. And there are 8 symbols, and it's all the kind of stars and signs and question marks and things like that. How would you take a random symbol and add that to the password that's being made? So instead of your password just being 3 random words, could it be 3 random words with a symbol in there somewhere? Perhaps in the middle, perhaps at the end. Could you also, if you think about how the random numbers work, if I go to pick random, if I look, when you look, you can put any number in here. I can put between 20 and 99 kind of thing. I can double click on that and it'll generate the any random number. Could you add a random number to your password? So could your password, instead of just being 3 random words, could it be a random word, then a number, a random number, then another random word, then a symbol, and then another random word? So could you amend this script to do that? That would be interesting. The other thing that's maybe worth thinking about is just now, our program isn't particularly, it works. It's not particularly user-friendly. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me just hide again these. Let's hide the symbols and put my passwords back up. So let's have a look at our program. Just now, there's no instructions here. So there's nothing on the screen that tells me what I'm supposed to do. Could you add maybe some instructions to this? Perhaps the cat could speak and tell us what we're supposed to do. Perhaps you could do that. Perhaps you could have different positions for your passwords. Perhaps there could be new sprites with some instructions on there that tells us how to operate the program. And again, as I hover my mouse across, I'm not quite sure if any of these things are clickable or not. It might be interesting to say, well, I know that quite often when I'm using programs and bits of software, if I put my mouse over something, it maybe kind of changes color or it kind of moves a little bit. Be interested to know if you could do that. So again, some kind of advice around about that. Let's look at the star button. If you look at the costume in the star, you don't have to, you could duplicate this, and then we could color in the second costume to be a bit different looking. Let's make it more of a, make that kind of that color, and I'll change the color of the plus button to be more of a pinky color like that. So I've got two costumes. I've got my normal one and I've got my highlighted one for what is costume 2. There are some commands in Scratch that says if my mouse is touching me, then I can do something. So could you think about how that might work? Again, if you go to the script for this, so if you do make a new costume, just duplicate it and change the colors. If I go to the code for this, I can leave this script alone, but I could start thinking about when the green flag is clicked. Let's find the forever. Forever, we always want our look to look like costume 1. Switch the costume, the first one. So we're always in there. But let's use an if statement. So if something happens, we can switch to costume 2. Now, what do we want to happen? Well, if we're touching the mouse pointer, for example. So in sensing, you've got this hexagonal block that says touching. It senses if objects are touching things. If I pull this in, if touching mouse pointer, switch to costume, save pass 2. But it keeps going round, and if it's not touching it, it switches back to costume 1. Now, what does that actually look like? Well, it looks like this. As I hover over, you see it's changing the color, which is perhaps a bit more user-friendly. When I choose to delete passwords, what number do I want to delete? I want to delete number 1. Press OK. Oh no, I didn't want to delete that. Oh my goodness. Could there be a bit of code that says, okay, you've typed in number 1. Are you sure you want to delete number 1? How might you work that out? There's a whole number of things you could think about exploring about how this program could be made better. So I'm not going to go into how you actually code those things. I've given you some kind of ideas. It'd be interesting to see if you actually can get to make a program and just make it that little bit better, either or by doing all of these things, by making the interface more friendly, so we've got instructions and the like, by making more complicated passwords, by adding some random symbols and some random numbers, and can we do something around about that whole deletion thing? What happens if I accidentally delete something? Or what happens if I say, I want to delete item number 9? Well, item number 9 doesn't exist in here. Can we think about how that might work? Now, that is really challenging, but I'd be delighted to see if you can try and work that out. Anyway, thank you for watching. There is a PDF that goes through the instructions of everything up to the kind of basic creating the password, storing it, then deleting it. But everything else is up to you to explore. Thanks for watching.